Welcome, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm the Grey Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. We are going to be doing a harmonic energy update. We are going to get started right now with the first two cards in our 5-card spread for today. First two cards we are starting our read off today are with, we have here the Seven of Swords in its upright with the Six of Pentacles in its upright. We're going to talk a little bit about this right now, okay? There are a few things that are happening throughout this energetic cycle that we want to work through, okay? There are a lot of planets that are currently in Aquarius, okay? That modality or experience can potentially sometimes create the feeling of overwhelm, right? A lot of things happening at once. We also have what's happening right now, Uranus, that is coming out of retrograde and moving. And that is a lot of the space. And I want to describe this, right? A lot of the energetic feeling of rut that we've been going through right now has been the combination force of Jupiter retrograding in Cancer with the combination of Uranus retrograding in Taurus, right? And what were those two planets in retrograde often creating the feeling of, right? The modality of feeling frustrated with the self in relationality to the ability to effectively transform or change. So what do we effectively see that happens through that, right? When we work through the understanding that we are exactly where we need to be, right? We work and we continue to effectively facilitate upon what it is that can make something more energetically ideal. And this is often, right? This is often what we experience when we work through, and I want to kind of add to this right now, right? The modality by which we work through a lot of the Virgo energy. And I love this about Virgos because Virgo energy is often the articulation or amplification of working into the context of understanding that perfect, right? Perfect is a verb, right? It's perfect, right? It's the ability that we bring to situations that allow something to get energetically better. But that modality or that experience by which we continually work to energetically perfect something is the modality by which, and this is what's beautiful about it, right? Perfect instead of perfect. Because when you're waiting for perfect, you're never perfecting, right? When you're looking for perfect, you're never in the modality of perfecting. So the modality of understanding that the way that we heal perfect, right? The wound of perfection is by perfecting, right? The ability to effectively track our own progress, to be able to see how far we've energetically come. This is often the modality by which we allow ourselves to feel something with more of an amplification as it relates to being able to ascertain or recognize what it is that we're working to do in a better fashion. Now, this is having a different impact depending on whether you connect to, depending on where you are on the frequency cycles. And we're going to start first with a conversation in navigating the energy that is in solitude right now or working towards solitude into union. And these are effectively relationships that are building into the world card of the tarot. That was effectively this new energetic cycle started at the time of the Capricorn new moon that we just experienced up until the present, right? This is a continuation of the understanding and learning that when we're working to energetically perfect, we work to effectively embody, right? And this is a continuing of the conversation about finding our bliss outside of partnership, right? The modality of being able to follow our bliss is not the space by which we feel that there's a relationship that will create it for us, right? The truth is with manifestation goals is there's no manifestation goal that will change the way you feel. right? In the modality by which we often, and the recognition, right? The understanding, when we recognize and understand that, then we work unto building into manifestation goals by which every step towards them feels like a step into bliss, right? The modality of understanding that modality or ability of building or operating into a state of harmony as we work towards our energetic goals, right? We allow ourselves to change the nature in relationality to how we see manifestations, but also how we see relationships, because it's the modality by which, and this is often what happens in the calibration of a falsehood, right? The modality by which one does not feel good about the self, right? Or one does not feel energetically in harmony with the self. And then you see a relationship and say, oh, if I had one of those, I'd be great. No, you wouldn't. Because it's a modality by which we understand that we bring, right? It's joy as you go, right? You bring the joy with you into the manifestation goal. So the ability to effectively recognize, and I feel like this is what's beautiful for a lot of these energies that are working in solitude right now, right? The ability of finding their energetic joy, recognizing that that is not separate journey from finding the ideal relationship. It's part and parcel in the same energy, right? Because when we find ourselves, what happens when we build into our state of harmony? Our counterpart finds us in a state of bliss. So that modality of understanding, right? The healthy centering in the self, right? Not looking towards things as a gimme, but being able to effectively identify what it is that we give, right? This allows us the modality of understanding that the best thing that we can do to find partnership is to take care of ourselves. Now, here's the rough truth about it, and we're going to get to the center card of our spread, right? That also works as energetic shield, right? Because the same things that you can bring into a harmonious, happy relationship will be articulated as a negative in an unhealthy one, right? The modality by which, right? The modality by which one could be in a space by which one is making energetically stabilized choices, right? An unhealthy relationship will see that as energetically selfish. The modality by which one is trying to communicate upon emotions, an unhealthy relationship will energetically articulate that as needy, right? And this is why it's so beautiful, because when we build into relationship, and the first thing that we start to do, right, when we look at the caring of the self as preparation for relationship, then we're perpetually in a state that the love that we give ourselves is also the love that we give towards the healthy relationship that amplifies the space of encouraging us to continue to build into that space of healthy, reaffirmed, self-supported action, because this is the healing of relationship out of codependence and into interconnectedness. And what does it look like to be in interconnected relationship? The modality by which we create energetically supportive systems. And that supportive system starts within the self and extends to those energetically surrounding the self. Now, for a lot of the energy right now, in solitude, I see two different modalities that are potentially occurring right now. These are scenarios and situations by which energy is recognizing and they're holding themselves in a space of appreciating their solitude because they don't see it as separation. It's the modality of understanding that that care of the self amplifies and articulates as the space by which another person finds us, and the energetic discernment in terms of how another person receives us, finding us in our energetic state of bliss, allows us to discern what feels like it is energetically healthy for us versus what it is that we're healing from. And so, for a lot of this energy, I feel like there's a little bit of, I want to point out, there's a little bit of this emotionality that's coming up. And we're going to talk about this here. We've got Neptune and Aries that are coming out of Pisces, and Neptune and Saturn that are coming out of Pisces and moving back into Aries, right? And that is a continuation of feeling energetically frustrated, working into the context of feeling the energetic frustration point in relationality to what it is that we ourselves have energetically experienced. Because I keep on seeing that a lot of those modalities or experiences by which we ourselves articulate upon our emotions build us into the space of identifying and recognizing what feels energetically stabilizing and supportive to us. So we've got a lot of this energy right now that is in solitude, that may feel like they're going through a process of unlearning and relearning, right? Letting go of the energetic narrative that told the self that one has to be, right? That one has to be in a space of giving the self something back meagerly, right? Because instead of kind of coming into that space of building into the space of being energetically nourished, then we are allowing for the context of being able to identify and recognize the relationship that feels like it meets in alignment to us. I also see new relationships that are coming together right now. And even in the space by which they're coming together, right, they're potentially articulating upon the changes that they've effectively energetically applied as it relates to their own perceptions in terms of what in a relationship brings force versus what it is that they can fix internally. And I keep on hearing like, this is a lot of the energy. I keep on seeing a lot of this energy that's like coming into relationship right now is the understanding, right? And this is what's beautiful, right? This is the understanding of the relationship that works towards growing into the space of saying a healthy relationship does not fix everything, but, right? A healthy relationship allows us to build deeper into the fabric of who we are and what it is that we're working to learn upon, right? Because that modality of building into healthy counterpart connection is often the space by which, when we are able to identify and recognize something that is not a strength within us, it allows us the ability to get stronger in the context of being able to articulate upon something that we are energetically working upon. Now, this brings us to a lot of these moon relationships. And the moon relationships were effectively the relationships that were coming together, the relationship cycles that were coming together between the time of January 18th, which was our Capricorn new moon cycle, up until September 6th of 2025 of this year. So working into a lot of that context, what are we effectively identifying and recognizing that was occurring in those modalities or those experiences? For a lot of the energy that's or into the summer, I apologize, the energy that came into the space of January 18th up until the solstice period of this summer, what do we see that a lot of those energies were effectively working through? Those modalities or those experiences by way or by means of being able to recognize and amplify upon what it is that one is able to do better. These are a lot of energies that feel that sense of stability in recognition to the peace that they bring forth to one another. And what were we effectively identifying in relationality to a lot of the peace that we were identifying there? These are the relationships that are perpetually working towards the refinement of the self. And what's beautiful about those energetic endeavors that we see with a lot of those moon relationships is working into the context of energetic refinement that allows the ability or the capacity of being able to energetically pinpoint upon things that they are effectively working on, effectively doing in a better way, right? And that's the beauty. I want to describe this. That's a little bit of that beauty that we can see when we start getting into that full moon, like that this moon energy that we have in Virgo. And that's what's beautiful when we get out of the space of working upon perfect, right? I keep on hearing that that's a lot of that moon energy that's saying perfect, not perfect, but perfecting. Right? The modality or the adaptability by which they effectively work to energetically fine tune the self, but also working into the context of the healthy relationship that allows one to be able to recognize and identify what one is trying to do more effectively. And this is what I love about these moon relationships. It feels, right? It feels like a lot of those relationships were effectively coming through those modalities or those experiences by way of being able to recognize or amplify upon the healthy relationship. It's like an ego-free territory is what I keep on getting, because a lot of that adaptability or a lot of that space by which they themselves are working to energetically achieve something is the modality and experience by which they are almost articulating to each other. And I like this about it. This is almost the energy that says to one another, right? That everything is possible in terms of being fixed so long as we ourselves are able to recognize and identify what it is that we are trying to energetically perfect, right? And so I keep on hearing not perfect, perfect, not perfect, perfect. Don't let perfect get in the way of perfecting. Now, this brings us to those temperance relationships. And for a lot of these temperance relationships, what we were effectively identifying, these were the relationships that were coming together between the time of Uranus stationing direct, which was happening in the fall, up until the solstice period that we experienced this summer. Can I please get the fourth and fifth cards in our 5-card spread for today? These are, whoop, we've got 3 cards coming through. We've got the Page of Pentacles in its upright. We've got the 4 of Cups in its upright. And we also have the 7 of Wands in its upright. So let's talk a little bit about what we're energetically seeing in relationality to a lot of this energy right now. So the thing that we're energetically identifying, and I want to describe what we've been seeing is happening right now for a lot of those temperance relationships. A lot of these temperance relationships are effectively working through the modality and experience. And I need to articulate this in such a way that it's going to take a bit of a moment to express. These relationships were effectively reaching a point of energetic intimacy by which they are effectively hitting energetic barriers that were effectively erected at a time by which they were in a relationship, and it was not safe to be the authentic version of self, right? Those experiences, those modalities, those situations by which we ourselves work to energetically refine and define upon something. And what's happening with a lot of those relationships is, and I want to describe this, some of those some of those trauma walls that we create, we ourselves aren't even able to perceive that they're energetically there, right? And this is what's beautiful about entering into healthy relationship, but not just entering into healthy relationship, but the healthy relationship that we enter into that allow us the capacity or the ability to effectively identify and recognize our own energetic blind spots as it relates to the trauma that we energetically carry. And that's what I keep on getting in relationality to a lot of these relationships right now. That modality or experience by which they are able to effectively articulate to one another, right? The gift that they effectively amplify and say to one another, because it's the ability to see oneself on an energetically holistic level. The modality or the experience by which another person is able to articulate, define, or refine upon what they're working on, but not just in the modality by which they're able to refine upon what they're working on, but the space by which they're able to amplify and articulate upon the energetic breakthrough that they're having in the space of being able to be the authentic self. And I keep on getting that for a lot of that energy, it's emotional, right? There may be a lot of feelings that are coming up, but I keep on hearing the feelings that must come up to allow to a deeper level of healing, right? It's a lot of that emotionality that we see that may be rising up, but even in the space by which there are those emotions there, right? I keep on getting it's the emotionality that effectively allows us to refine and define upon what it is that we're doing in an even greater fashion. Now, this brings us back into moving back towards the energy that's in solitude right now. Clarification between the 7 of Swords in its upright with the 6 of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify, please. We've got here the 9 of Wands in its upright. So what do we see with that 9 of Wands energy? Whoop. And we've got the next 2 cards coming out. We're going to put those over here. The one thing I want to describe with a lot of this energy right now is, and I want to explain this best. The space by which we effectively are able to allow the sense of easement allows for the point by which we ourselves become the force of strength in relationship. And why do we say that? Because it has a lot to do, right? It has a lot to do with working through the energetic wound that we often bring into situations as it relates to defining and refining upon what we identify as perfect, right? And this is what happens, right? Perfection often stands in the way of energetic progress of the self, right? Because here's the thing about it, when we are in the space by which we can energetically idealize, like what that energetic ideal manifestation is, we often say to ourselves, I haven't energetically realized it yet. But in the modality by which we feel like we fail to realize it, we don't realize that we've already reached a level of perfectitude. And so I feel like that is what we see that's happening right now for a lot of the energy that's working through solitude, right? It's the energy that is working to let go of the false premise that one must be perfect in order to enter the perfect relationship. Because if you wait to be perfect to enter the perfect relationship, you're going to be holding your breath for a long time. Because I guarantee you, I want you to think about, right? I want you to think about what you thought was perfect 5 years ago. I want you to think about what you thought was your perfect 10 years ago and what you're potentially going to recognize if you reached those benchmarks on several occasions. And this is the thing about it. When we are constantly perfecting, perfection always becomes out of reach because we never effectively arrive to it. Her perfection is the horizon line of our own energetic ideal action. And when we understand the nature of our own perfection, working towards the higher self that always identifies the space, that it always feels like there's an aspect of that that is energetically out of reach, then we don't bludgeon ourselves with that aspect. we don't bludgeon we don't bludgeon with ourselves with the fact that that is the nature of perfection. We just come into the space of recognizing it and we navigate it with a sense of proportionality. And so this is what we keep on seeing, right? And the identification of the energy that's working in solitude that says perfect is achievable in the space of understanding that one is willing to learn, right? This is the beauty of healthy harmonic partnership is it allows one to move into pervasive and perpetual energetic harmonization, the attunement that we effectively build into one another that starts with our own adaptability. You've met people like this before, right? Sometimes, and this is what's hard, right? Sometimes the cruelest person you meet is the person that's trying to reach for perfection the hardest. Because if somebody is in the modality by which they're constantly bludgeoning themselves with perfection, guess what? They're holding a cudgel, right? They're holding the same cudgel to everybody around them, right? It's like it starts with the self and then you give it out to everybody around them. And this is what's so painful is sometimes you'll see somebody who's causing trauma to those around them and you recognize that the trauma starts within, right? You see somebody and be like, oh, they hold themselves to too high an energetic standard and then they're energetically bludgeoning everyone around them because they themselves haven't healed from the trauma of their own feeling of needing to be energetically perfect, right? And this is why the solution to that is holding ourselves with a force of compassion. Because when we are recognize and identify and say it's okay not to be energetically perfect so long as we're moving towards learning, then that is a gift that expresses not only within the self, but becomes the force of compassion, right? The compassionate learning that we effectively extend to all of those that are in our energetic presence. And so this is what we see that's happening right now with a lot of these relationships is building into that pathwork of being able to effectively look at the space of the love that we express, right? The love, the way that our love is often experienced is the way that we ourselves give that love back to ourselves. And so I feel like that's a lot of the energy that may be moving into relationship right now. And they're effectively articulating to one another as they do so, saying, I'm trying to learn to love myself more because when I learn to love myself more, I hurt the world less, right? When I learn to love myself more, then the feeling of my love being expressed feels like the compassion that I'm giving to myself that is expressed and received by all of those around the self, right? Now continuing, and this is bringing us into those energies that are moving deeper into union right now, those moon relationships, clarification between the 6 of Pentacles in its upright with the 2 of Swords in its upright. We've got here the 8 of Wands in its upright in combination with the Hanged Man in its reversal. I don't mind seeing a Hangman in its reversal. I don't mind seeing a Hangman in its reversal, especially with like the 8 of Wands here. But I will say there's something to be said right now. And I'm just going to stress this. There's a lot going on right now. Okay. A lot of moving parts. And I want to describe this like that's the best way I can describe that's the best way I can describe Aquarius energy. The best way I can describe Aquarius energy in the space by which there are a lot of planets in Aquarius during Aquarius season right now. It's working into the context of a lot of moving parts, right? A lot of things happening all at once. But here's the thing about it, and it's much the same too, right? That is a good thing. What, right? And I need to point this out. And this is what I keep on seeing a lot of moon relationships understand. And this is what we mean about the difference between having a manifestation and embodying what it feels like to be within one, right? Right. When one has a lot of moving parts, one has its hands full, right? Often the amplification of a full life is an energetically busy life. Is what I keep on. And so the modality by which a lot of things may be energetically happening, right? And feeling a lot of that energetic and this is what we can expect. And I just need to stress this because I want you to chill out. Okay. You got to stay cool right now because here's the thing about it, especially with like Uranus coming out of retrograde, okay? It can usually and here's the thing, and this is what we're going to expect right now, okay? It's going to feel like it's going to be like nothing, 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 and then it's like whoosh, like it feels like everything happening at once, especially as we're moving into eclipse cycle, okay? So it's like it can feel a little bit like an energetic or emotional floodgate, as it were. But here's the important thing that we recognize and identify right now, right? The space by which we don't energetically get carried away is the modality by which we're energetically stable within ourselves, right? And it's the identification of a potentially, and this is what I need to point out. Often when you see others that are not necessarily as attenuated to what's happening energetically, right? What often happens is like you see somebody, you're like riding the emotional waves and they're being energetically tossed around in them, right? And rather than being, I keep on hearing observe, don't absorb, is what I keep on seeing. Observe, don't absorb, right? Because it's the modality of energetically feeling instead of energetically embodying, right? The difference between saying, like, what is happening to me versus what is happening right now, right? The modality by which one is feeling energetically attenuated to recognizing the difference between the energy within the self versus the energy around the self. And the one thing I want to notice, like, I keep on seeing, right? And this is the gift with like a lot of these moon relationships. And this is the gift that happens when you're not in an overly egoic state, right? The ability of having an energetically streamlined ego is being able to effectively identify what the work is within, how one is effectively able to navigate something that is internal versus something that is energetically external. And so I like this because this is why these relationships have come together so strongly. They appreciate each other because they see the strength it takes not to be emotionally carried away by things, right? And what we mean by being emotionally carried away is the space by which you allow the emotions to guide the action. And usually you can tell someone you can tell when somebody is in that modality because the emotions lack sense or reason. Healthy emotions always have healthy directions attached to them, right? The modality by which we don't just calibrate upon what we feel, but we understand the energetic force of direction by which we are effectively expressing emotion. And so I feel like this is why these moon relationships are building in to such an energetically stable place right now, because it is the modality of effectively feeling the stabilization of being in a relationship with the recognition of counterpart that has the ability to articulate upon the wide berth of emotions, right? Right? They're able to communicate upon the wide berth of emotions, but not in the space by which the expression of the emotions interrupt what it is that they're trying to communicate with each other, right? So there's like there's a lot of deep conversation that I potentially see that's occurring in those experiences. Now, this brings us to a lot of those temperance relationships. And for these temperance relationships right now, and we often see this, and I want to describe this too, with a lot of the energy that we see that's happening right now with those temperance relationships, clarification between the two of swords in its reverse, in its upright, with the page of pentacles in its upright. Can I get one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with the eight of swords in its upright. And the thing I want to identify and articulate right now with this eight of swords energy, this eight of swords energy, when we see it here, it's a continuation. It's a continuation of a conversation in relationality to, um, and I want to describe this. The modality by which, the modality by which this energy often creates healthy boundaries is amplified and articulated upon the space by which one is able to effectively navigate or articulate to another, right? The modality of another, like energetically working through the context of the self and the triggers and the boundaries that we hold. Now, to clarify on what I mean by that is there is a false premise. I don't know where it came from, that in order to be healthy, one needs to get rid of your triggers. That is the most unhealthy thing I've ever heard. We're supposed to be triggered. When we have, and the way that you can tell that a trigger is placed in a healthy space is a trigger should be as close to an energetic standard as possible, right? The modality by which we hold a standard and a trigger is set by the standard is the definition of the fact that we represent that there are things that we hold of intense importance, right? And this is often how we build into healthy relationships. A healthy relationship does not require one not to have any energetic standards. There's no relationship there, right? That is a relationship that is not built into the space of actually holding or representing something. But the modality by which we energetically articulate and define something that is of energetic value to us is the space by which we know ourselves. And what's beautiful about that, and I keep on seeing this, right? I feel like for a lot of these temperance relationships, and this is what we can kind of see coming out of a full moon in Leo, the modality of another person not caring about something that is vital and important, that often carries the shape of our own sense of recognizing and identifying what it is that we ourselves hold dear. And I keep on getting that for some of those energies or some of those relationships, right? I keep on seeing the conversation that they wish they could have, but fear they never can, right? Because those modalities and experiences that we often have that allow us to be able to articulate the energetic shape of something that is important, but not just the shape of something that is important, but the work that we do to help each other, right? To help each other learn, right? It begins with an understanding of the capacity by which one is able to recognize the ability of moving away from energetically indulgent thought. Now, what is the difference between an indulgent thought and a healthy thought? An indulgent thought, and we were talking about this yesterday, right? We were often having the conversation in relationality to the modality of experiencing something that feels like it is energetically worthy versus something that feels like it is not necessarily supportive to those around the self. And it has to do with the continuing conversation that a healthy manifestation goal is one that is energetically mutually shared. And if you're ever not sure whether your manifestation goal is pure or not, start talking about it. Okay, start talking about it with others around you, right? And if you feel awkward, if you feel awkward saying something out of your mouth, then that's usually a sign that's probably not a healthy manifestation. But the modality by which, and this is what I keep on seeing, this is a lot of the energy that continues to articulate, and I keep on hearing every day, getting able to be a little bit more uncomfortable, right? And this is why I see that this is the energy that's getting energetically stronger, because you'll remember that I articulated that this is a lot of the energy that is recognized or identified via the partnership, an energetic an energetic trigger point, right? An unhealthy wall that they may have found within themselves that they needed to erect at a time that by which they were experiencing a trauma environment. This is the sad truth of it. This is why we talk about some trauma only can heal by getting out of range of it, because the modality and experience of understanding that you can survive a trauma environment. The question you really need to ask yourself is, who are you going to transform into in order to energetically endure something? Right? This is why we talk about the fact that sometimes we articulate our love by moving out of distance of things, because the modality by which we amplify and articulate our care, but we identify the fact that we ourselves do not allow our care to build into the space of turning us into something that we are not. I feel like there's often these modalities with these relationships by which they've had to let go of energy, right? Like, I feel like this is energy that's almost articulating to each other that they had to effectively let go of energy that they deeply cared about. But often the modality of seeing another person that allows the trauma, right? Allows the trauma to hold on to them, right? Allows the trauma to inform their perspective, is the modality by which we often feel the modality or experience by which we feel sadness for those who are effectively here, but in the modality or experience by which we effectively allow that context to fortify and reaffirm our own energetic action, right? And so I see a lot of that energetic vibration there, right? It's like the energy that says, I cannot articulate to another why they should energetically care. But often the modality of perceiving, right, fortifies our own energetic direction. And so I feel like there's a lot of that energy that's working through those capacities or experiences, right? And they're in the process, I keep on hearing unlearning and relearning, right? Always in the direction of understanding what is effectively needed to be able to move towards that higher version of self, or what is effectively identified. And I keep on getting there that even in the modality by which they're experiencing their trigger, I feel like some of that energy is saying triggered for a reason, right? Right. It's the modality that says triggered for a reason. We're supposed to be triggered about things. Continuing to get clarification between our Page of Pentacles in its upright in combination with the Four of Cups in its upright and the Seven of Wands in its upright. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with the Justice card. And this is bringing us back into the energy that's in solitude right now. And let's talk a little bit about, like we see even now with a lot of that justice energy. Like, I like this. I like to see the justice card for energy and solitude because it's working on finding a healthy balance, right? It's working on navigating and finding a healthy balance. And the thing we identify with working through a healthy balance is the proportionality by which we ourselves energetically navigate through circumstances or situations. And I want to describe this. And I feel like this is often Like, this is often what happens with energy that is compassionate. Energy that's compassionate, usually you can tell energy that's compassionate because they're always agonizing upon action. Is what I keep on saying. This is the hard truth, right? That when you're working in terms of compassion, you're always agonizing over action, right? It's the modality that always wishes that there was more that one could do. But this is why I keep on seeing that for a lot of that energy, being able to effectively navigate and articulate upon what it is, right? This is a lot of that energy that identifies, and I keep on seeing, and this is what I keep on getting with a lot of that energy in solitude, the care of the self that acts as shield from the unhealthy relationship, right? The modality by which we effectively, I keep wondering the care of the self that acts as shield in relationality to healthy relationship, because in healthy relationship we bend but we don't contort, right? We're energetically adaptable, but we don't fall over ourselves. And the modality by which we find that energetic flexibility, right? And I keep on seeing this. The energy that recognizes that the flexibility that we bring to things is often the amplification of recognizing and identifying that we're not deeply in our ego, right? Because egos are rigid. Egos are very rigid. Egos are very, very rigid. Um, and in this and that's why often like egos can shatter, right? Because egos are rigid and egos can shatter because it's more of the space by which, and you can usually tell when somebody's in their ego because they get very defensive, right? Everything is articulated from a space of something happening to the self instead of being able to look towards something and identify and articulate what one can do, is what I keep on seeing. And so for a lot of that energy, I feel like that is like I keep on getting, and this is what I like about some of these relationships or the work that of the energy and solitude that's working to heal right now. Like I almost see the space by which they're identifying and they're saying the self is sanctuary. And what do we identify with the self is sanctuary, which is saying the self is a place by which we ourselves consider is blessed. And the modality by which we try to effectively do things in the best way possible, right? It helps us understand. And this is what is hard about it, right? The modality by which we can only love as well as we love ourselves, right? And the modality by which we often have those experiences by which, right? And like the modality by which we have experiences by which others come towards, and this is what I keep on hearing, when we're in an unhealthy space we look to relationship to heal us, right? And it's the modality by which this energy is working through the capacity of understanding that the perfectitude that we find in ourselves allows us to change our nature or our recognition of relationship. There is, if we do not feel healthy, there is no relationship in the world that will heal us because it's the modality and the capacity of understanding that what we effectively find is what we effectively bring forth. So for a lot of for the energy that's effectively working through that, this is a lot of the energy that's not even looking at themselves in separation, but in a space of preparation, right? The love that we give to ourselves that isn't indulgent, but the space that says, I'm learning to love myself, recognizing that I'm going to find a counterpart that loves me the same capacity that I myself give that love to myself, right? And so this is a lot of the energy that builds into the sense of not feeling that is, and I keep on hearing, this is how you can recognize the difference between selfish and centered in self. It's not selfish if it's something that would eagerly give another, right? Something is only selfish if it applies only to the self. But if it's something that one would eagerly give to another, this is the energy that's learning to bring that compassion to the self because that is the modality by which they're able to recognize and identify what feels, right? They're caring about themselves the way that the divine counterpart would. And in the modality by which they do so, it allows them to be able to see what's coming towards them with more clarity. And for a lot of these relationships that are coming together right now, clarification between the Nine of Wands in its upright with the Eight of Wands in its upright and the Hangman in its reversal. Can I please have one card to clarify? we've got a lot of that Knight of Wands energy. And I like to see the Knight of Wands energy here because it is working into the space of healthy communication, right? The energy that we effectively articulate as it relates to, I keep on hearing, every day the right step in the right direction, right? The modality by which we identify and articulate every day the right step in the right direction, which is not the modality by which we feel that we have to like change everything overnight. But the way that true transformation occurs is a little at a time, right? The little, and I keep on hearing the little gifts that we give to ourselves that help us recognize and identify the changes that we're bringing forth towards ourselves. And so I feel like this is beautiful because I feel like for a lot of the energy right now, it's not just articulated and amplified in relationality to being, I told you, they're not bludgeoning, right? They're not bludgeoning themselves with that desire for perfection, but they're recognizing and identifying and seeing situations and saying, how can I nourish this? How can I perfect this, right? How can I work upon doing something in a little bit of a better way? And so I keep on hearing a little bit every day goes a long way. And even in the space by which these new relationships are coming together, that quality or appreciation is building into the space of the healthy relationship. Now, continuing to get clarification between our Eight of Wands, our Hangman in its reversal, and the Eight of Swords. So we've got double eight energy out right now. We've also got a lot of seven. We've got a lot of sevens on the table. We've got a lot of eights on the table. So moving back towards those moon relationships, one card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with the Fool card. I'm not surprised to see the Fool card right now because we've got, listen, we've got Saturn and Neptune that are both moving into Aries. And Saturn and Neptune both moving into Aries. Is working into, like, and I want to describe it as it's very much similar to a Saturn return moment, right? I like to describe it as like a bit of a pseudo Saturn return. We're also about to head back into eclipse season, which can often create the space of a lot of things happening very quickly. We also have to recognize that Jupiter is still retrograding in Cancer, which means that there is a lot of that heightened sensitivity right now. But I keep on getting that for a lot of that energy, being able to effectively, I keep wondering, being able to effectively take energetic approaches and being able to recognize and identify not only, I keep on getting, progress does not, I keep on hearing progress does not happen overnight, right? The space by which we build into the attenuation of relationship is the consistent reliability by which we effectively find each other each day, right? It's the modality or experience, like, and this is what we talk about as it relates to reliable energy. It's what we effectively come to know upon one another. And this is what's beautiful because I feel like for a lot of these moon relationships, there's something inspiring that they find in one another. And what do they find in one another that feels like it's energetically inspiring? The concept of aspiration, right? Like it says to me that this is a lot of the energy, like again, a lot of this moon energy in these relationships is the space by which they've learned. Like I keep on hearing these relationships, they take themselves. I keep on hearing them say, "Why would you not take yourself seriously?" Right? Why would you never not take yourself seriously? Because I keep on hearing that, and this is often what happens, right? Trauma environments often create the context. And I think it's interesting too, because, and I want to describe this because it almost feels like energy that works into, like, and I want to describe, like, there's something very interesting here, which is the energy that says, I find joy because I take myself seriously. Why would I not take my joy seriously, right? The modality by which we recognize the importance of joy is the space of understanding. And I like to point this out. Every true manifestation goal, right? Every true manifestation goal, the actual demarcation point of a manifestation goal is joy. every good manifestation goal, when you think about it, like when you move away from all of the other stuff, what's at the heart of it? It's joy, right? And it's the search for that sense of joy, right? Why go after anything if there isn't the sense of energetic joy there? But here's the thing about it, right? And this is why we remove the space of comparison, right? And this is why we remove the modality of identifying the fallacy of best. Because if you're looking towards being the energetic best, is like best the joy that one finds there? Is there's going to be joy? Because it's the modality by which we understand, right? And I feel like this is what's beautiful about these moon relationships, right? They identify, they're working to identify what joy means to them, right? And that ability of being able to recognize and identify what joy means, right, is the space by which they're able to energetically amplify and build into the space by which they hold that sense of joy sacredly, right? Because it is that gift, like that gift of beauty and that gift of love that we give to each other that allows the context by which we feel energetically stable within ourselves, right? We arrive to situations, we're not seeking something out. And it's the modality by which we come to places and say to ourselves, how can I make this place more joyful? How can I make this place more beautiful? And when we effectively have that modality by which we're not looking, right, but we're energetically arriving into situations, we don't feel that sense of energetic yearning, but we're perpetually answering the call of what it is that we're seeking by being the source by which others are able to find it, right? And this is the gift that we have when we start to build into that, but we can only achieve that if we recognize how energetically precious we all are, right? When we identify that each and every one of us is energetically precious and unique, then we build into the context of identifying and articulating and saying, how can I bring that energetic uniqueness into a world in only the way that I can do? And so I feel like there's a lot of that energetic contemplation that we effectively see that's happening there for a lot of these moon relationships. And it's the energy that often moves into a contemplative state, right? And it's a contemplative state, not from the state of being overly focused on the self, but for the sense of effectively wanting to give forth more of the self in the context of the joy that they're trying to effectively amplify and articulate on the world around them. This is bringing us back into those temperance relationships. Clarification between the Eight of Swords in its upright and the Justice card. One card to clarify. Yeah, it's I'm not surprised to see it. Man, I love if you're a tarot nerd, I love these three cards together, Knight of Wands, Fool, and Ace of Wands, because the thing about it is it works into, and I like this too, because I have to stress that there's something going on with this temperance energy, which is like, it's giving me a little bit of like, don't mistake the kindness for weakness. Don't mistake the kindness for weakness. Don't mistake the kindness for weakness. Because it's a modality of understanding. Do you know how hard it is to be kind in a hard world, right? The modality of being able, like the ability to find, like when this is why when you find a kind person, right? When you find a kind person, you like someone who knows what's up, being like that right there, that person right there, that's a very strong person, right? Don't mistake the kindness for weakness. Kindness is a choice, right? The modality or experience by which we navigate circumstances or situations, and we understand and amplify that at every moment that is an energetic choice. That's something that we are working to bring forth. I just keep on seeing this energy that often works into the energetic arrival point and being able to amplify and articulate to another that true energy understands and recognizes the energetic stability or strength it takes to be energetically kind in a difficult world, in a world that often feels, right? In a world that often feels like that journey is one that feels in a way, shape, or form at some point, sometimes thankless. That ability of being able to articulate and resonate and build into the context of being able to do something in a way that is so energetically important. I feel like this is a lot of the energy that often works through the modality of experiencing situations or circumstances by which another person, and this is often what I keep on seeing, the modality by which another person sees someone energetically kind and makes the false presumption of taking energetic advantage over kindness. This is how energy loses connections, right? The modality, and I feel like this is what's hard for some of those relationships, right? These are some relationships that I wouldn't be surprised if these are relationships by which another person doesn't even go to the trouble, right? Doesn't even go to the trouble of trying to correct another person's false presumption of them. Because this is the energy that almost articulates and says to themselves, the only person that I need to be good with is the person I see in the mirror. And the modality by which I almost feel like I see a lot of this energy that works into the space, right? And I keep on seeing the modality by which we don't confront things is often, I keep on hearing often more, right? Is often more of the space by which I feel like I hear this energy almost articulating and saying, when you perceive something, right? Energetically, like they're very connected to this. This is often what I see with like Saturn's lessons. The modality by which you recognize or identify and you move away from something rather than energetically facing it is almost the modality that says, I hope the day comes that they understand and recognize, right? The modality by which we treat each other, right? I keep on seeing that is a lot of that energy. Like I just see that energy working through modalities of saying it's not their job. It's not their job to teach lessons, but to observe the nature of another person's, like, and I keep on hearing standards show. Like that's the thing about it. Standards show. You can't hide standards. Like, that's the thing about it. Like those modalities or experiences, right? Like this is like I keep on hearing, like this is what we articulate. And what is the modality by which we understand, right? It's the space by which we ourselves like work towards things that often creates that sense of feeling energetically stable because it's the space by which we hold each other. And I keep on seeing, like I keep on hearing this energy that almost articulates and says like good is what you find in here. It's what you work towards, right? It's not something that's energetically performative is what I keep on getting. Knight of Wands to the Fool energy, in moving back to the energy in solitude. Yeah, we've got a lot of that Four of Swords energy in its reversal. So I want to describe this. If you're feeling a little bit of this energetic anticipation right now, we've got a very intense, this new moon energy is going to be triggering eclipse season. And it's a new moon in Pisces as Neptune's about to move into Pisces. So prepare for a lot of emotions, right? But that's what I keep on seeing in relationality to a lot of this energy right now. And I want to describe this too, because I feel like for some of the energy right now in solitude, they're working through and remembering emotions don't fix things, directions do. Emotions don't fix things, directions do. But sometimes when somebody's in, right? Sometimes when another person isn't in a healthy space, they have the false presumption that all they need to do in terms of trying to fix emotion, like something, is being able to reveal the fact that they have emotions. And this is why I feel like there's a lot of that energy that almost like works through the pathwork of their own healing. And the hard part about it is it's not just the fact that they're working to heal, but it almost feels like that they're like working in the space of letting go of, I keep on hearing, situations or circumstances by which another person articulates a desire to be in relationship, but does not have the ability to navigate the intensity of the emotions that arrive when one is within one, is what I keep on seeing. And so that's what's kind of difficult for a lot of that energy that's working through solitude. It's the understanding that love is not enough. This is why we have to do the work to feel our emotions, because this is why disassociating is so dangerous, because you can do not find strength in disassociating and understanding that the best relationship you'll ever experience will make you feel things that you've never felt before. Right? You have to be able to be in the modality of being able to prepare for weird emotions. And the only way you can prepare for weird emotions is if you allow yourself to feel the ones that you have, is what I keep on hearing. Continuing to get clarification between the Fool card and the Ace of Wands. Yeah, this is what we mean with the 7 of cups, right? This is what we talk about with sitting with our emotions. It does not mean trying to disassociate from them, right? The modality by which we find the amplification, and this is what we talk about with serenity, right? The understanding that those that you find that are energetically serene, it's not like they've decided, it's not like they've evacuated their emotions. They've understood, they understand the ability of sitting within them, right? They're all there, right? They haven't gone anywhere. They're feeling the same exact things you felt, but they don't allow, right? They don't allow the emotions to dictate the action, but rather they build into the context of the healthy listening to the emotions to understand which emotions are functional versus which emotions trigger the fact of working on something within the self, right? It's the understanding that serenity is a perpetual act of strength, right? It's not stillness, it's perpetual strength embodied. Final card for today's spread between the 4 of Wands in its upright and the 7 of Cups in its upright. The Hermit card. And this is what we see with a lot of the temperance energy. And this is what I feel like a lot of the temperance energy recognizes, right? The temperance energy gets this, the modality of understanding, right? And this is often what happens. You see somebody energetically serene, right? And you false presume naivety there. But the modality by which another person finds sereneness and the serenity that they create as a point of choice, right? The ability of them being able to overcome the emotions within the self, right? I keep on hearing the energy say, don't disturb serenity, right? Because the modality by which you understand all of the emotions that exist within is the modality of understanding the full strength it's taken for another person to be able to achieve that state of energetic serenity, right? And that's why I feel like there's a lot of intelligence that I see that happens with temperance energy. Because if that's the modality by which another person sees serenity and assumes ease, right? This is a lot of energy that knows better, that goes, no, 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 you don't find serenity in a state of easement. It's the work that we do within ourselves, right? It's something that we effectively work to continually, perpetually identify and attain because we build it into the context of being an energetic priority. And this is why I see that these counterparts appreciate each other so much, right? Because they build upon the context of finding that point of energetic serenity. It's something that they create within. It's something that they facilitate without. But I keep on hearing, you can't find serenity in spaces that ask you to contort, right? The modality by which another person like recognizes or understands, right, what feels energetically like appreciative. And this is why we articulate upon the beauty of that, because that ability of being able to identify that or utilize this understanding that the self is a gift allows the understanding and recognition of building into the perception of how others receive it, that often allows one to be able to identify and recognize where oneself feels energetically appreciated. Bottom of the deck on this reading, Page of Cups. Page of Cups in its upright. And I think that one of the things that we're seeing with the Page of Cups in its upright, and I feel like there's a lot of this energy here. It's working through, right? Never make energetic assumptions when it comes to the energy around us, right? There's this ability to see easement and to make energetic assumptions in terms of what one finds there. But this is often like, and this is what I keep on pointing out, like the most energetic, serene person you'll ever meet will surprise you in ways that are amazing. And this is often why I even see, like, even in the context by which you're building into a new relationship, giving giving something the benefit of the doubt and allowing something to grow, right? Because I keep on hearing still waters run deep, right? The modality of the healthy relationship by which we don't build into the context of trying to energetically wow one another, but the ability of being able to take something in a proportionate fashion. What often happens is the modality of another, right? The ability of coming into a healthy relationship in the way by which another person is working to energetically, I keep on hearing, impress rather than effectively show. I keep on seeing that for a lot of that energy, that ability of working through, I keep on hearing relationships. Relationships are not, I keep on hearing relationships are not entertainment. zones, right? They're not the modality by which we feel, right? It's not the modality by which we energetically feel dazzled, but the modality or experience by which we allow something to energetically grow. And I feel like there's something really beautiful about that because I see that some of these new relationships that are coming together right now, they're like soft touch, like baby steps, right? Careful patience and consideration. But even in the modality by which they're doing that, what they're effectively articulating to one another is the presence of their experience in each other's lives are gifts. And the modality by which we don't energetically demand upon gifts, but we build into the space of the mutual appreciation of it. I feel like this is a lot of that energy that's articulating and understanding, right? I feel like this is the energy that's saying, I'm finding more control in being able to let go, right? And what does that mean? The ability, the control it takes to energetically go with the flow, right? It's so hard, but it's so vital because often it understands that when we're in a healthy space, we don't try to put control on situations, but the control that we find within ourselves as we navigate situations towards what it is that we aspire or what it is that we're hoping to nourish and find there. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and receiving it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my site, so I encourage you to do it there. A couple of updates before we move into personal readings today. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who participated in our recent class on the World card. Our next tarot class will be held on Wednesday, February 18th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our studies into the tarot with a focus on the court cards of the Sword Suite. If you'd like to become a part of that tarot class program, all you need to do is head on over to my stack and become a paid subscriber. Your paid subscription to my stack is your ticket of entry into our live classes each and every month. As a monthly subscriber, you will have access to over 9 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library class archive. Now, it's not necessary to catch up. I'll do my best to give you an update on everything we've studied prior to beginning the next class, but the material is there for you to receive as you're ready to receive it. You'll also have access to a complimentary one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything we've learned and studied thus far. And if you become a founding member, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, you'll also have access to over 20 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library class system. And all you need to do, one of the things I try to do in these classes is make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. Don't let your lack of experience or your robust experience prevent you from joining us in these classes. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my stack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings or services. I also post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events as well as my online live schedule, as well as my Mystic Meditation articles, which give you updates on everything we've been experiencing in the cards. Just wrote one recently on this full moon that we just navigated. I also want to invite you to my stack to learn more about a very special retreat. This is the final week to register for our retreat. We are going to be traveling to Italy to learn more about the cards in the location by which the tarot was first documented to be discovered. Everyone who attends that retreat will not only be able to have one-on-one classwork with me, but will also learn more about the culture by which the tarot was able to grow and thrive. And if you become a part of that retreat this week, not only will you receive a $200 discount on that retreat program, but you'll also have access to receiving a complimentary mentorship class with me. I also want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for any of my students seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason, as those classes are focused on each individual's personal spiritual goals and journey work. Those classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series, weekly or biweekly as your schedule permits. Also, for my students seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, again, weekly or biweekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. And I'm also very happy to now offer dream interpretation readings, which you can purchase per dream or as a series. If you purchase the series, I would encourage you to start to keep a dream journal, as we will meet weekly or biweekly with that journal and utilize the tarot to understand the key themes and messages coming towards you in the dream space. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.